Okay, everyone, welcome back to What Happens in Vegas. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Canestraro, and today we have Jason Applewhite with us. He is the co-founder of Bimini Baths, Bimini Hydrotherapy, which I personally use. You know, when it comes to your vagus nerve, we need oxygen, and then that helps you feel calm. So thanks so much for being here, Jason. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, thank you.
So, how did you get into this? Like, I read a little bit of your story on how you guys kind of discovered this, but I know that you're an entrepreneur and you're into, getting wellness solutions out to people. So, how did you end up in this oxygen? Like, what is Bimini? Let's start with that because some
Yeah,
people don't know.
yeah. So thanks for having me. And yeah, so first off, what we're doing when what we created is we pretty much created a device that circulates water and creates these ultrafine oxygen nanobubbles that while you soak in a tub, you're taking the oxygen through your skin. So it's another way to supplement oxygen other than, breathing, breath work, working out with pure oxygen or hyperbaric chambers. We're now doing it while you soak in your own bathtub in the comfort of your own home. And
Mhm.
so how we started is I graduated at Texas A&M with a biology degree, and my dad was a small business owner, and he sent me this thing right when I was graduating, it was about 2010, and he sent me this link. He said, "Hey, check out this 3D printing thing. What do you think?" And I was studying. I was gonna, don't know. My next plan was either dental or med school or one of those things. I was like, "This seems pretty interesting. Like, are you looking at bringing this in your facility shop?" And he had a small business at the time. They were doing printers, copiers, and he was looking to expand. And so we started doing this 3D printing, and I became like an engineer by trade, helping NASA, Dell, a lot of these companies bring additive manufacturing into their facilities to help their engineers. And so we started doing that. And with our technology, we started having people come to us say, "Hey, I have these ideas on napkin drawings. Can you help me like bring this to life?" And so we had a doctor come, and he had this nanobubble generator, and it was like 6, 7 different pieces. You had to put it all together. And I was like,
Oh,
"Hey, we can make this in one piece." And next day, we pretty much had it printed, ready to go. And he
wow.
started doing it for agricultural, wastewater, fish farms, a lot of the industrial applications. And so we were using them in the lakes of Dubai to cleaning up like the biofouling that was happening from these man-made lakes. A lot of stuff in Florida
Wow.
with the algae plumes, and then we started doing salmon fish farms. And so what traditionally they would use was these little micro bubblers that would go in water, and then they'd pump in oxygen, but then they would all off gas, whereas these nano bubbles would stay suspended for like days, weeks, months at a time. And so they were able to make it a better ecosystem. Same thing for agricultural, so you could use this and do any gas. So then we pretty much set up a test unit at our facility. And my dad, he had really bad plantar fasciitis at the time. And we set up we pretty much had a stainless steel tub, and we set up a little makeshift kind of beta system, prototype. And he started getting in, and he'd get out the next day. He's like, "Man, I can walk. I've got no pain. Like, I think we're delivering oxygen somehow through whatever means we are." We didn't know much at the time, and so we went on this journey. If we can, well, he kept calling it the fountain of youth. He goes, "Man, like I feel like every time I get out of this, I feel like." He's 60. He was 60 at the time. He's like, "I feel like I'm 40 again. I can get back on the basketball court and start playing ball again." So he's like, "This is my fountain of youth." And he's like, I can walk with no pain." So we set on this journey. It's like, hey, if we can help my dad walk with no pain and feel like he's 20, 30 years younger, where you can get back on the basketball court and start playing again. I was like, let's try to take this to the world. And so we started Bimini, and the name Bimini came from the Ponce de Leon searching for the fountain of youth in the
Oh,
islands of
wow.
Bimini. And so we kept calling it the fountain of youth. So that's what we named it. And then we kind of took the name Bimini from that and created that story of saying Ponce de Leon never found the fountain of youth. We created it with our oxygen nanobubbles.
I love that story. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then from there, yeah. So then we partnered with Rice University, who's a local university. We're out of the Houston area, North Houston, south of Magnolia Woodlands area. And then Rice was really interested in for their sports science side because they were using all these different modalities. They had the hot, cold tub, the compression boots, all these different things. But D Miller down there, he's pretty open minded, and he was like, "Yeah, let's see what we're doing here." And so we started, testing with oximeters, known in cerebral oximeters, testing, oxygen in the brain and the muscle, besides
Hmm.
what you put on your finger and testing pulse ox. So we were getting more into the muscle. And so what we found is we were increasing, blood oxygen levels, from 50% after a workout up to like 90%. And then we started doing reactionary studies on football players and how over the course of the season they have these little micro concussions, and so the reaction time, is kind of slows from game to game. And they came out and said the football players that were getting in, they had improved or stayed the same, whereas everybody that wasn't using the Bimini oxygen tub was decreasing. So with their system, we set up their big underwater treadmill with a one of our standalone systems where the hoses go in the water. It pretty much takes water out, circulates it through our oxygen nanobubble device, and then shoots it back in, so they can get 12 guys in there at a time.
Mhm.
And that's our big NanoJet Pro, and they were getting incredible results. People that were having soft tissue injuries like hamstrings, little nagging things that happen over the course of the season, they were going away. They had fresher legs. They had like a better bounce, is what the guys were saying. Like, hey, like the wide receivers, like were like, hey, I can just get off the line much quicker. I feel like I got an extra step in me now. And so that's when we started really attacking the professional sports market,
Mhm.
because of all the success we were having there. So we had from there a lot of NFL guys that were using hyperbaric chambers started using our systems because they could travel with them to some degree, and then they were using ours. Say at the night of after a game, they would get in and oxygenate the body, and then like say say a Sunday night they would do a session, or Monday night the following day. Then they do another session on Wednesday, and then the day before a game if they could, especially at home,
Mhm.
because what we found is if you do a session the day before competition at 20 to 24-hour mark after, you get like a delayed lactic acid buildup, and these guys like in the fourth quarter can go longer. So one of our big success stories last year was Kyrie Irving going into the NBA playoffs. He got his in April of last year, and then made the Mavs made the playoffs obviously before they traded Luca. This was last year, and yeah, and he absolutely loved it. He's like, man, I use hyperbaric chambers, and this has kind of changed the game for me as I'm getting older. So a lot of the
Yeah.
guys in the NFL, NBA that are aged, like I would say, they're not old in the NFL terms. NBA terms, they're older. Like once
Yeah.
you get up into your 35, 36, 37, say you're 8 years in the league, it's really kind of giving them an extra extended playing career, because they feel
Mhm.
like they can just they can go longer, and they don't get as winded and keep up with all the young guys coming out of college.
Yeah, so I mean, we talk with all our patients about oxygenation and how much it can help clearing lactic acid. And just so you know, my story for how I got into using oxygen bags, like I was actually really sick and I was in Las Vegas when all of this stuff happened to me. And I happened to get told by a colleague who actually introduced us that there was an oxygen bath there. And so I went there and I had these crazy, like I felt so much calmer because like Lyme disease turned on for me, like very
Uh,
acutely.
uh,
And so it helped with pain, like it helped with anxiety, all of this. And I was like asking them, and their bath was going to cost me like 150,000 to have like a home unit.
yep,
So, I obviously held off, but I actually really considered buying one because of how much like it helped me. And I went like a few times over the course of time. So obviously, eventually I got introduced to you guys where there's this affordable, relatively affordable. It's not cheap. It's a machine that is also like obviously worth it because of the amount of benefits you can get and having it in your home and being able to do it consistently. So just so people know, a lot of problems that people have, like even if you think about similar to athletes, when people are sick, there is a lactic acid buildup that we see. There is like lack of oxygenation to the tissue. And then you have your whole skin, like which is your biggest organ, available to absorb into the arterioles, like directly in there.
yep,
And that's the hardest place to get the oxygen
yep,
to,
yep,
right?
yep,
And even when you do like hyperbarics, like the surface area that it's absorbing in is only through your lungs, right? So,
yep,
so like I had these crazy changes, and then obviously everything that I do for myself, I work with athletes. So a few of them have bought them, and everyone absolutely loves them and sees differences. So, this oxygenation part is like the biggest thing for, I think, longevity. That's a big part of, but also for healing people who are really sick
yep,
and for people who are athletes trying to perform better. So yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me when I found your product.
yep. Yeah. So what I'll say,
Amazing.
yeah, what I'll say is, yeah, not everybody's a pro athlete, right? So there's a lot more people that are pro athlete. So outside of the pros. So that's just one facet of our business. The majority of our people are dealing with a lot of other like chronic conditions, or they're CEOs of companies, or they,
Hmm.
have Alzheimer's, or, diabetes, or whatever they have that's, they're chronically kind of going through. Like you said, oxygen is that one like life breathing element. I mean, I feel like God gave us our bodies so that if we give it what it needs, like oxygen, nutrition, water, like it can do a pretty good job of healing itself. And so what
Hmm.
we created with this device is another way to supplement oxygen in a comfortable environment by, sitting in water. So combining the power of water, which is our transport medium. So we're using water to transport these oxygen nanobubbles into your skin. So as you
Hmm.
soak in there, these bubbles are, I'll get into the science a little bit. So what we're
Yeah.
doing is we're breaking down these oxygen nanobubbles that are like 2,500 times smaller than your skin pore. So we're getting about
Hmm.
200 to 300 million of these nanobubbles per milliliter of water. So it's highly concentrated of oxygen. In our devices, we all have oxygen concentrators. So we're taking ambient air, we're converting it to 98% pure oxygen, running it through our nanobubble generator and breaking those bubbles down, and then pushing those into the water or wherever you're soaking. So we have these large whirlpools people are using, bathtubs. And what we found that we didn't even realize is now we have doctors using foot soak tubs. Dr. Noah, Dr. Chris Cormier, we have an Alzheimer clinic where a lot of these patients are so, they get to a certain level where you can't get in and out of a bath really easily. So you worry about falling and all this stuff. So now by soaking their feet, they're actually
Hmm.
getting oxygen through their extremities. So soaking their feet, especially with people with neuropathy that have limited blood flow to their
Hmm.
to their extremities, which is more of a prevalent case now. And the most interesting thing is at this Alzheimer clinic, they just have a foot soak tub, and they're getting people in, and they're getting benefits in their brain of how they're able to respond better just by soaking their feet in oxygen, because the brain is like an oxygen sponge. It's 2% of the body mass of the body, but it consumes 20% of the oxygen.
Hmm.
Everything connects to the brain, as you know, like from all the nervous systems and everything.
Yeah.
One of the big side Yeah, one of the big side effects that we've seen besides all these soft tissue injuries and neuropathy is sleep, and how when people do an oxygen bath in the evening with the Bimini, they sleep, their REM cycle is much better. It's because their brain is
Wow.
fully oxygenated, and that's when your body is healing. If
Hmm.
anything you can do to improve your sleep, I mean, I recommend it 100%.
I was just going to say I did that actually with my dad putting his feet in because his knees were injured, so he couldn't get into the tub. So we were having him use it through his feet. So that's funny because I had just done that intuitively because I'm like, it's better to get that
Yeah,
than nothing. And then I'm having people drink oxygen water. Are you guys going to get into that business
yeah,
side of
yeah.
things? Like,
We have our systems, our three systems. So we have the NanoJet Eco that works for bathtubs, the Pro, which is large bodies of water, mainly for universities with a lot of athletes getting in and out. And then we have our NanoJet immersion tub, which has all our technology embedded into a tub. And then outside of that, we came out with this facial product because everybody kept saying like, "Hey, when I get out, my skin feels like so soft. It's amazing.
mhm,
Like, how can I do that to my face?" And at first, we were like, "Hey, just grab a snorkel, go under." But then we started bottling that and then we have a 30-day kit. It's called Bimini Pure O2, and it's $47 for a 30-day supply per month, and it has a little dish with the 60 cellulose sponges. So you pour a little of the oxygenated nanobubble water in there, and then you dab it on your face, and it's helping.
oh, nice.
We have a lot of like estheticians using it, dermatologists, and
Mhm.
another interesting thing about oxygen, it also has a wonderful like detoxing qualities to it. And so we've had a lot of people with like skin conditions, and with skin, they go and maybe see somebody and like, oh, use this steroid cream or do this or that. But most of the time, it's an internal issue where the
Mhm.
body's like trying to tell you like, hey, something's going on, and it's like outwardly showing signs through the skin, and it's trying to like whether it be mold or anything that your body's kind of dealing with, it sometimes comes out. But we had a case in Canada, actually, in the Toronto area, where this young man had atopic dermatitis. I'll send you some pictures. And it went on for like about 2 months, and he went to all these different specialists trying to figure out what's going on, how to get rid of these red. It was all over his body. So imagine like I don't know, chicken pox but times 10. And he did a session, and then 8 hours later, it was like 50% improved. And then he did another session, and after that second session, it was completely gone. So whatever he
Hmm.
had in him, it was able to detox out of him, and he hasn't had it back. And they ended up buying a system, and he's in every 2 or 3 days. Um,
Yeah.
using it. So what we tell people is it's a quality of life. It's not like, hey, you use it once and then it just is done. It's one of those
Yeah.
things of maintenance in the body, of continuing to oxygenate. And as we're on this aging process and on this hypoxic curves, because as we get older, we get a little less and less oxygen kind of flowing through the cells, and we have 30 trillion cells in our bodies that need ample amount of oxygen to perform and do their cellular function. And so when over time those cells start to get less oxygen, they either start become unhealthy and dying, and that's usually when these chronic conditions usually take place. And so the importance of putting in oxygen is one element. We have a doctor that goes by the OWL method. He goes oxygen, water, and light. So as long as you get ample amount of oxygen, water, and light, whether that be sunlight or red light, any type of light, and then he's got, he added sound too. So he calls it OWLs,
Hmm.
sound therapy. And then also frequency, like we talked about frequency devices that you can add to this and help open up the cells and let the oxygen flow through even better.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm on the same page with that doctor because we're trying to get everybody their carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, light, and sounds in order to heal their body, along with, obviously nutrition and all of that. But like these things, like our soil is devoid of this and that. Like it's hard to get the basics these days. Like some people don't realize that. And then, people aren't eating perfectly anyways. So like supplementing these things, like, when it comes to oxygen, I mean, this is one of the easiest ways to help any like especially chronic issues because any type of chronic issue there's some sort of hypoxia just how you said it and like with athletes they need more oxygen arguably just like people who are sicker might need more because of the buildup of waste in the body that isn't cleared so it's like effectively can help almost every condition and so what have you guys noticed with like because I know some people are doing this in conjunction with a hyperbaric and getting even amazing results too like have you done any studies like that because we were talking before and I don't know if we recorded but you were telling me no you talked about them while we were recording the
Yeah.
studies right.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll touch on that. Most people that have come like and found us have either gone through that company that you said out of Vegas, which their name is Cocoon. They're out of Hungary. They do, the other oxygen bath, but they hyperbaric chamber. So people that have used hyperbaric chambers know the benefits of oxygen because that's one of the only other ways besides intense breath work or some other things. Still, it's going through the lungs, like you said. It's having to go through the lungs.
Yeah.
And what a hyperbaric chamber is you lay down in this pressurized chamber. It pressurizes oxygen into the lungs so it can disperse out more throughout the body. Usually those are like 90 minutes, 60 to 90-minute sessions, so they're long nap time like sessions. But a lot of our athletes and individuals that have found us that were using hyperbaric chambers, they've enjoyed the Bimini Nanojet because it's half the time. They're doing 30, 40, 5-minute sessions and saying they're getting this better results than they are in like a 60, 90-minute session of HBOT. And then a lot of our athletes are doing the Biminis like every other day, and then they might do the hyperbaric chamber like once a month now. It's like
Mhm.
where they were doing the hyperbaric chamber more. Now they're using Bimini as their maintenance oxygen tool. So really, what it is, it's a tool to oxygenate your body in a comfortable way, and a lot of people, I guess, seem to prefer it because of the comfort. And most people have taken baths before, and it seems pretty natural to sit in water
Yeah,
and
it is.
take in the water. And so now we're working on expanding our product line. We're trying to make more of a travel unit that people can take on planes in this hard shell case. So it's easier to transport. Like Jacob, I know, is one of our colleagues and he's in the NHL. And, being able to, for him to take it on the road in between games, especially in the playoffs and those sort of things are, a value add for sure. And then we're going to be making this chair where it has our technology embedded in this chair. So working with these high-end spas.
Oh, nice.
If you go to the nail salon, imagine those chairs, but with our oxygen nanobubbles kind of flowing in into the.
Do you have like a directory of places that like have it that are offering it to
Yeah, yeah. So that's our next phase. So outside of the athletic space, we have more and more functional medicine doctors like you and others that are bringing it in their practice and opening it up. Because our goal with this is like obviously right now it's a little higher end. Say the bathtub model is like a little over $9,000. So it's about $320 a month if you finance it. So it's doable,
Mhm.
but it's not everybody can afford that, right? So
Yeah.
our goal is to try to get as many out there so people can come and experience this. So if it's at your clinics or some of these med spa clinics, we're expanding our reach from Florida, California, Phoenix, Scottsdale area, people in Toronto, and then some more up in the Northeast, so that more people have availability to go and experience this. And so that's
Mhm.
on our roadmap, is to map those and share that with everybody on our website so they can figure
Mhm.
out where they can go and experience this.
Yeah, and this is a question, so like I really want to know this. I have my whole house water filtered, right? And then I even use like a little filter on the actual bath where it's coming out. Like, is there a thing with the quality of water if you're then hyperoxygenating it, like anything where you might like absorb some of the toxins from the water? Is this like a concern, or have you seen like is that anything that
No, yeah,
you kind of
yeah,
coach people on?
unlike hydrogen, where it's because we do have a lot of people that drink hydrogen water and do our baths, because the hydrogen obviously is good at removing free radicals and whatnot. But I've seen these, but it's so reactive. Like if you did a hydrogen in a bath, they would just kind of immediately kind of like gas off. Whereas our oxygen nanobubbles are, they're little forms of energy, and they stay compressed pretty good, so they don't really attach to much of anything else, and they're just flowing and going straight into the body. Obviously, if you have a whole home system
Okay.
using bath water to remove the chlorine and everything else from the water, that's always recommended, obviously. But
Mhm.
we have units
Mhm.
on like hot tubs, and they're using like a lower grade, chlorine, bromine, or even ozone. In our immersion tub, we're using an oxygen concentrator. Also have ozone for our for sanitation purposes. That it kind of flows through every so often to sanitize any of the water. Yeah,
So pretty much even beyond like a chlorine, you said you were using it in hot tubs that even have some chlorine, but like lower amounts. So it's not like driving more in
yeah,
anything like, okay,
correct,
perfect.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the most chemical free you can be in terms of your water, obviously, the better, right?
Yeah, of
So,
course, of course.
so if there's other means to, and then with the home unit, it's just you fill up the tub, you have the hoses draped over the water. And then after you're done, we recommend using like little hydrogen peroxide or other, chemical free solution to just cycle through the system, and it kind of cleans it out and makes sure
Mhm.
there's no, bacteria buildup or anything like that.
Yeah, we're using the truly free
Oh yeah. Yeah.
the oxy powder of theirs to clean it through. But yeah, hydrogen peroxide's really good too, the food grade one.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like yeah, in between uses, obviously. But yeah, it's easy to use. So I'll talk, you just explained it, but it's just two bigger hoses that attach and a smaller hose and then something that goes in. You fill your tub and make sure the little piece is submerged and then it sucks the water through and does its thing. And even like the sounds and like people who know about water, like structured water, it's giving it that swirl
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
right? So people are in like kind of like having that structured water that you're bathing in. So
Yeah.
it's almost like you have that added benefit because if you look into water and, all of the Japanese studies on like structured water and how healing it can be, then you have that like kind of added benefit. But you guys have a pool one too, right? Like, 'cause my patient was going to get one and add it to their pool. I don't know if they ever did.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a larger one that you can pretty much, we can do this with any body of water. So we have it so you can plumb it up in your pool, and that comes on a skid. So it's on a skid, it can be plumbed right into your pool. And then we have a bigger unit that just stands alone and is more for like hot tub stuff if you don't want to plumb it in there. And that's the NanoJet Pro that a lot of the universities are using.
Yeah, amazing. I've seen those on your website, the different ones at the different universities. So I definitely think teams should be jumping on this. I mostly work with NHL, so I don't know. I've got to start talking to people that are in the training staff because obviously it would benefit. And they a lot have those cold tubs anyways. And then is it the same thing? Because when I learned about oxygen water, like the cooler the water, the higher the amount of oxygen or the less amount of oxygen you lose. Is that something that we have to worry about with the Bimini? Yeah, and I'll say for sensitive people that are using this for chronic illness, when I first went in, I wished someone told me not to stay in for the full hour when I was that sick because I did have like some detox symptoms. Like it still helped me, but like so you can start off with like the half hour and build up to the hour. Cause I found that, I mean, now I can stay in whatever, and athletes can go in and stay in for the whole time, but it's more for people that are really reactive to things because it does, like you said, cause some detox.
Our Olympic athlete, she's a long distance runner, and she stayed in for a full hour at like altitude. She was like she was training in Flagstaff. And she was like, "Oh man, like I can tell I'm having a good detox right now because like the oxygen's getting me."
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. So, I mean,
Yeah, so
anyone can benefit from
yeah, so
this.
I'll run through like the benefits that
Yeah.
we've seen, like beyond like athletic soft tissue injury. Anybody dealing with inflammation, aches and pains, brain fog, and challenges, because when you oxygenate the brain, you start, getting those synapses firing a little better. Low energy, drink challenges, low endurance, detox, stress, anxiety, poor sleep, lactic acid buildup. It even helps with immunity. In some cases, we even did a long COVID study with people dealing with these long COVID effects and how it, benefited them and just oxygenating the tissue by soaking in water.
Yeah, because there's a lot of microcirculation problems that cause a lot of those long COVID symptoms. So if you can get some oxygen there, obviously people are going to feel much better. Well, that's amazing. We're kind of losing connection. So I think we've learned a ton. I think that everyone will be intrigued because who wouldn't be? I mean, oxygen is life. This is a tool. Like if you're looking to invest in your health and longevity, if you're looking for something that actually works and has a big benefit, like I don't talk a lot about a lot of different tools unless they really work. So that's what I found with Bimini. And, there's a few other things that like just really move the needle. So if this is something people are interested in, where can they find you guys?
Yeah, so on our website, it's biminihydrotherapy.com or biminioxygen.com. And then on Instagram, Bimini Nano at Bimini, BIMINI Nano NANO. And that's where you can see kind of like different athletes that are using it, like Derrick Henry, he's a running back. Gabby Thomas was our first, big Olympian that used it before the last Olympics when she was training for all her 200s and events. And she's like, man, this is incredible results. I can't believe this thing exists. So we do a lot of updates there. And then, yeah, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn as well. Look up Bimini Hydrotherapy. And yeah, we're using the powers of oxygen and water to help everybody restore the quality of their life in the comfort of their own home.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for being here. I think I have a code too, but we'll link it
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
in
So,
the notes for this after, and we'll link it anyways. And if this is a tool you're interested in, like if you've been looking into feeling better, then this is definitely your tool. So thank you so much for being here.
yeah. Thank you, Dr. Stephanie.